Welcome to Ascension of the Chessman, diving into the esoteric, occult, spiritual, and conspiratorial aspects of life, focused on solutions to the problems we face in our everyday lives. Let us ascend above all differences. Let us be the light in darkness, a breath of fresh air to those who can hardly breathe, and together awaken into greatness. This is Ascension of the Chessman with your host, Andre Mitty.
Welcome to the Ascension of the Chessman podcast. I am your host, Andre Mitty. Today's guest is a spiritual seeker, host of Forbidden Knowledge News and other podcasts. Ladies and gentlemen, hobbits and fairies, give a warm welcome to Chris Mathieu.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me on the show. Honored to be on.
Hey, thank you, brother. So happy to have you. I know we know a lot of the same people, so it's good to finally meet and get to know you as well, man. I look forward to this.
Oh yeah, for sure. Definitely in good company in this community. A lot of truth seekers and spiritual seekers on here.
I love it, brother. That's what I'm all about, gathering the tribe, you know?
Oh yeah.
And my first question, Chris, for every guest is always, for those who aren't familiar, can you explain what it is that you do? And I guess what woke you up to realizing maybe there's more to this life than you originally taught or thought?
Well, thank you so much again for having me on. And what I do is I just really ask people questions. I have a talk show, Forbidden Knowledge News, that I started a few years ago. And it started out just like as a Facebook blog. I was posting interesting articles and just different things I was researching myself that I found interesting, conspiracies, stuff about spirituality, stuff about UFOs, stuff about other dimensions, just any kind of alternative fringe topics that you wouldn't hear about anywhere else. I was kind of diving in everywhere. And I decided to reach out to people that I thought were smarter than me when it came to some of these subjects. And it would, probably make my show more interesting. I did so, started reaching out to some of my favorite authors and researchers and scientists and doctors and anything that I was looking at. And I was, also listening to tons of podcasts, reading a bunch of books. And so I just started reaching out to some of my favorite people that I really respected when it came to some of the things I was looking at. And, most of them were happy to come on and talk to me in the beginning. And it kind of turned into a whole thing. Someone suggested doing a podcast. So it eventually became a YouTube channel and then a podcast. And somehow a lot of people started following it, and a lot of people dug it. So I feel very honored and blessed to have the audience that I do. And I'm glad that people are enjoying the work that I do. But as far as what woke me up to everything, it took a while, man. I was sleeping for a long time in my life. Throughout, I always had a sense that there was something off. I didn't get along with other, most people in school. I was kind of a loner kid, kind of a weirdo. I was into weirder things than my classmates. Always into science fiction and UFOs, and kind of more of a creative type than anything. And I wouldn't understand some of the concepts they're trying to teach in school, and even in my social life in general, some of the things that I was trying to be indoctrinated with, and I never fell in with the crowd really. So I was kind of also a black sheep of the family. And but I also was still sleeping in a way because even though I questioned everything, I just went along with life and went to school, started doing the regular career thing, got married, and unfortunately, I was asleep for years throughout my 20s and a little bit of my 30s. It was my early 30s when I started to wake up. It was actually in 2012 for some odd reason.
Same here.
Yeah,
That's wild.
A lot of people I speak with is the same thing. It's an interesting date.
Yeah.
But it was after my first marriage. I was getting out of a bad marriage, and I just started to look into things. I started to question things. I was in a bad place, and I was like, I don't understand a lot of the things that are happening around me when it comes to the social or political aspects of our lives. And even, the education system, our history, it all didn't make sense. So I wanted to look at the things that didn't make sense to me. And I just fell deep into some rabbit holes. And that's when I started to kind of wake up to things. But this whole time, I never had any spiritual experiences or paranormal experiences or even seen a UFO. I mean, I see things in the sky, could have been UFOs maybe, but, nothing to make me second guess it or question it. And no really strange paranormal experiences, although I think my ass has been saved on a spiritual level many times growing up. I should have died many times. But other than that, nothing out of the ordinary. Besides, as a child, I've had a lot of missing time, I think more than ordinary, because I can't remember a lot of my childhood for some reason, but I don't know if it's due to traumatic events or something else. But after that, that's when I started doing my Facebook page and my show, and everything took off. And it was about 2017, 2018. I started to get the podcast really started to take off and become more popular. And I still hadn't had any strange experiences in my whole life. And this is what I was started to, I wanted to do for a career. This is not what I was doing as my career at the time. I was doing podcasting on the side, as a kind of hobby, fun thing. And my career, it was great. I was making great money, but I wasn't happy with it. I actually dreaded going to work every day. It was a corporate job, it was a sales position. It was good money, but I hated doing what I was doing, and I never felt right doing it. I never felt like it's, people should have to be subjected to waking up every day, feeling like a slave doing something they hate doing just to, pay their rent and eat and things of that nature. So I never understood that aspect either. And, this whole time I'm doing the podcast, I hate the job I'm at, want to quit, but it's great money and I'm making a good living. So I keep doing it, just like most people tend to do if they're in a good position or a good job. And I'm kind of not even seeking spirituality. I'm just doing the show for fun because I find these subjects so interesting and fun, and that I find out how corrupt some things are going on behind our scenes, and I want people to know about it. So that's one thing, that's one aspect of what I was doing. And then one day I have this experience that really changes everything as far as the direction that I'm going, as far as the direction the show was going. It was picking up steam, it was pretty popular, but I wasn't making any money, a few bucks here and there from sponsors and the podcast, but I wasn't making enough to afford, to quit my job or anything.
Pay the bills.
To pay the bills. Yeah, right. So, one day, it was 2 years ago now, I have this experience that changes everything. And I was getting out of another bad relationship with an ex girlfriend. And this time, it was just one day during just a regular day during the week. And I'm speaking with someone outside my house, and I look up and I see these 3 bright orange flames in the sky, and they're in a triangular formation, and they're going up really slow. And I'm just thinking, wow, that's interesting. I wonder what that could be. Could be some sort of experimental craft or something like that.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at it. My friend he's oblivious. He don't see it. He's talking to me, talking. I'm looking at the sky, and I don't know what the hell he's saying because I'm looking at this thing. And all of a sudden it stops and it's sitting there. And I'm like, that's different. Sits there for a couple seconds, and then bloop, it either shot up so fast I don't see where it went, or it just disappeared out of existence. And I was like, that's very interesting. But again, it wasn't anything, like my friend didn't see it. I was like, did you see that? He's like, no, what are you talking about? I was like, damn it, I didn't even pull up my phone. I didn't think about that. So it was something that kind of escaped my mind after a couple of days. I didn't think about it anymore, but it was an interesting experience. I think it was the next day or the day after is when I had this experience. I had started meditating, but I was terrible at it. Like I couldn't get past a certain level when I started meditating. I had this
were you doing silence?
Yes, I was doing silence, and
wow.
I couldn't bring myself to a relaxed state enough, and I couldn't get past, I guess I had this kind of block from childhood religious experiences and dogma. I grew up Catholic, and all the
Right.
things you
Same.
hear. You're gonna make contact with a demon, and they're gonna possess you if you meditate. Just stupid shit, that would keep me from doing that. Yeah. But this time I decided I got to do it. I was in a bad place, and everybody was like, you got to meditate. You got to meditate. I was like, I fucking know. I got to meditate. All right. So I decided to do it. And this time I put on 432 hertz tones, and I was able to get past that block, and I fall very deep. And the series of events to follow, it's like a 3-day experience, and it's a kind of a blur. I have it written down on my notepad somewhere that I don't have in front of me, but I'm going to do my best to recall the series of events that occurred next. But I don't want to mess up anything, but I apologize if it sounds a little different. No. Okay. So what happened basically, basically what happens is, I go into this meditative state, and I fall really deep. And I am actually get the sense that I'm like traveling through space and time, and I start feeling like, I guess the only way to describe it is I'm getting downloads. Like I feel like all this knowledge is being pumped into my brain, mathematics, science, physics, like all this stuff I don't understand. And I'm like, what is going on? And it's like I knew what it was at the time for a few split seconds, and it just kind of passed through my consciousness and it was gone. And I was like, what the hell was that? And then I'm just in this meditative state, letting all this stuff flow through me. And all of a sudden I hit this space where it's just nothingness, darkness, and I'm at peace, and I don't, sense anything around me, just darkness, blackness, but it's very peaceful. And the next thing I know, I can sense this blue, like kind of light coming into my subconscious vision. And it's on the right side, I remember, and it keeps getting closer. And the closer it gets, the more of this beautiful, amazing, loving feeling I'm getting. And I've experienced love before. I thought I loved my parents. I thought I loved, but this is something beyond, like something I can't explain. Something that like it feels unconditional in a way that I've never felt before. It's like a drug. It kind of like made me feel like I was on something. And
highest of highs.
Yes. Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah. It was amazing, and I've been high on some things before, and this was better than anything that I've ever experienced, honestly.
Doesn't touch
but
that.
It was but it's so natural and so, just like a love feeling. And it gets closer and closer, and then all of a sudden it like speaks so psychically to me, and it's like, hello, how are you doing? And I'm like, what? Hello. And I knew it wasn't me, and I just kind of started to freak out and kind of reverted to that childhood fear, that Catholic fear. I was like,
it's a demon or something.
I said, in the name of Christ, are you good? And immediately before I could finish that question, it was like, yes, like it gave me these soothing feelings. And like this communication was instantaneous. Before I could even finish my thought of what I wanted to ask this entity, whatever it was, it would answer me. And it was like the best kind of communication I've ever experienced. I was like, wow, I love talking like this. This is great. And it made me feel at ease. It wasn't a demon. And I felt that, I felt like this is something really good. And it asked basically if I was ready to have a conversation. I was like, hell yeah. And I was so excited by this, I kind of popped up and my eyes opened. And I thought I fucked everything up. I thought I messed up the meditative state. But no, this being was still there. He was still speaking to me as I was like walking around my house. And I just remember it's like, I was like, wow, man, this is amazing. This is the best kind of communication. Why are you showing up now? Who are you? And it's like, well, you're ready to hear some things that you need to hear, basically. So I kind of knew it was going to be a heavy conversation. This entity went on to explain some things that were going to happen in our world. This was right when the whole Ooga Booga COVID thing hit. And and
that's crazy, dude.
It told me, we're going to hit some really turbulent times. Be prepared, prepare yourself spiritually.
Wow.
Get healthy. I was I was overweight. I wasn't in the best state at that time.
Mm.
And we had this long conversation about myself, what I needed to do to prepare. And, it kept reiterating that I'm a small like section of a huge collective that needs to come together to kind of achieve this global task.
Mm.
And that's uh kind of reverting everybody's thought processes and consciousness to a love state and a Christ
Mm.
consciousness state. And
Yes,
that
there it
that
is.
that's we'll get into that in a second, because this was part of the second
Yeah.
experience that I had with this entity. But the whole conversation lasted about an hour or 2 hours maybe.
Wow.
And I wasn't on anything at this time. It was just meditation. And it was telling me, it was suggesting things that I should do, suggesting things that I should read and look at, and giving me downloads. And it was amazing. So it lasted for about 2 hours. And as it kind of just faded out over time.
Mm.
It was just harder to communicate with this entity. And then after a while, it's just gone. So
Wow.
yeah, and I
That's
was,
crazy.
yeah, it was in this whole time, like the whole time I was communicating, like when I opened my eyes, everything had this kind of weird sheen to it. It
Mm.
was kind of like if you've taken psychedelics, that first stage, whenever you first start to feel it, that's what everything looked like.
Mm.
Everything kind of had this little shine to it.
Shine to it. Yeah.
Yeah, so afterwards I immediately get on the phone with like some of my contactee friends, some of my
Yeah.
experiencers, people who've had experiences with other entities and communication, and just talking to everybody, trying to figure out what just happened. And I still had my doubts. I still wasn't sure that that experience was real. I had a lot of doubts,
Mm.
and I wanted to try it again. So the next day I did, and I think I was kind of frustrated, and nothing happened that day. So um, I had some more conversations, and I calmed down, and I tried again the third day, and I put on the tones. And for some reason, something's telling me to get in water this time when I do it.
Mm.
And I was like, okay,
Yeah.
interesting. So I'm gonna go in the bathtub and like something, like water some kind of like conduit or something like that. So I just got that in my head, and I start to meditate, and I go deep really quick. The tones are on, and I'm like very quickly deep in this meditative state. And all of a sudden, the blackness comes up, and I'm peaceful. But this time, a white light is coming, and this time it's from the left side of my peripheral vision. And it kind of envelops my consciousness, and it's filled with this white, bright light. And after the white light dissipates, I'm in some kind of childhood memory
Wow.
where I'm walking down an old like a family friend's hallway, and I remember this traumatic event that occurred in my life, and I
Mm.
like pop out of the state, and I'm like, whoa, that was crazy. I never thought that would have happened, and I was kind of freaking out about what I remembered,
Yeah.
and all of a sudden the entity comes back, and I feel this blue light, coming getting closer, and the love feeling,
Yeah.
and it kind of calms me down. And it was
Mm.
like you needed to remember that so you can move forward in your path, and work through
Yeah.
that, or something along those lines. So we start to have another conversation with this entity. And
Mm.
I asked, where are you from, and what do you do? And he responded, we seed Christ consciousness, or this something along the lines of this. We seed Christ consciousness to those who are ready to accept it, or something along those lines. It was very interesting. And then I can close my eyes and open my eyes again in this state. So I open my eyes, and I'm in my bathtub, and everything again has this kind of shine to it.
Yeah.
And then I close my eyes, and it looks like I'm on a ship. It looks like I'm on a
Wow.
giant, like I can see out these huge windows, and I can see outer space. Open my
Wow.
eyes, I'm in a bathtub. I close my eyes, it looks like I'm in outer space or something. And the
Damn.
ship has like 3 levels. It's a very sterile looking, kind of like metallic gray surfaces. And all of a sudden I start to feel this major love feeling. Like, but I feel like it's not just from one person. I feel like I can tell that it's from different entities, and they're like surrounding me. And the love feeling gets stronger. And as it gets stronger, I can actually see them kind of start to manifest in my mind's eye. And they're like these little animals. They're like these little green kind of etheric, clearish looking animal hybrids. They were all in these little robes. One looked like a bird, one like a frog. Some crazy. They had one that looked like a half worm being.
Wow.
It was absolutely insane. Yeah, man. And they, started communicating with me.
Wow.
It got really blurry at this point. I don't remember what they said. They asked me if like I want to accept my task as something on this, incarnation on this planet or something like that. And I was like crying. I was so happy that this was like, happening. I was like, yeah, whatever, let's do this. And it was such an amazing experience. And the feeling of love I was getting from all these beings was fantastic. It was like nothing I could ever describe. And eventually this experience ended. I was like, well, how am I going to get back? Am I like on a spaceship? They're like, no. Yeah, I mean, well, he said yes, but no, but you'll be back, and you can come back when you want. I was like, wow. And they gave me more information and things that like, I guess I should be doing, more downloads, books I should read, things I should look into. And part of that, they said, was if you want to be able to experience us, without necessary meditation and other entities like us or something along those lines, you can use psychedelics like magic mushrooms. Now, I had not used psychedelics since I was like a teenager. I used to experiment like with LSD and things like that.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, that's interesting. So it's food for thought. And then that experience eventually came to an end. That was a little bit longer of an experience and quite intense. And I was like, wow, that was pretty convincing there. Yeah. But I still had some doubt, I don't know, this could have been some kind of acid flashback, right? Yeah. So the third and final day that I had this experience, I have stomach issues sometimes, and I ate the wrong thing. And I was in extreme pain. And I was like hunched over in my bed. I couldn't move. And usually when I'm in this state, it's for a few hours and I'm out, maybe even a couple of days. And I was like, man, I don't know, let's test this. So I was like, all right, guys, if you're here, come on, heal me. And I could like sense this laughing and this kind of joy and love feeling, and I could see, feel this blue light come, and this being's like, you can do that yourself. And I was just like, I didn't know what to say or feel, and this love kind of enveloped me, and I don't know if it was me or them. At the time, I have a deeper understanding of what happened now, but at the time, it was quite profound. And I was like, okay, this is definitely something, because immediately the pain just dissipated, all pain. And in fact, I felt that, high feeling again. Yeah. And it was just gone. And I was like, man, there's got to be something to this. This can't just be me. I felt like I released some kind of like, I injected myself with something that just
like a huge detox or something, purification.
And so after that, I was like, okay, there's something to this experience, and it changed everything for me. It set me on a different path. One of the biggest things I forgot to mention is during our first conversation and the second conversation, one of the big things that kept pumping into me is quit your job. And I'm making pretty good money at this job. I'm like, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm making what, $500 maybe a month off this podcast right now. No, it's not going to work. And they're like, yeah, quit your job. You'll be fine. I'm like, no, but that seed was planted in there. Right.
Self-doubt, second guessing.
Within like, I'd say 5 months, I just said, screw it. I took out all my life savings. Wow. Me and my producer moved out to Colorado here. And we just like said, screw it. And at the time, the show wasn't making anything. We had a few rough months out here, but all of a sudden, you know, I look at our revenue and I'm like, oh my gosh, we'll be able to pay the rent with this month. How did that happen? Like, it can't start coming out of nowhere. And then, you know, the next month I'm like, we'll be able to eat and pay rent this month. This is amazing, you know, and it just kept getting better. And I was like, oh, you know, I should have listened to this damn thing a long time ago. I wish I had had this experience before. And things fell together. I actually started growing mushrooms.
Hell yeah.
Had a few experiences there with a few different types of entities, and it's pretty amazing and profound experiences. But we can talk about those. But if you have any questions or anything, feel free. I know it just went off.
Dude, that was incredible. I had many questions come up as you were speaking, but I was just biting my tongue. I was like, no, don't cut him off. It's gonna throw him off in the story. So I'm glad I did it. But no, I was just gonna say, first off and foremost, I've had a very similar experience with the UFO you mentioned. It was like 3 lights, like a pyramid, and they were all of a sudden just sitting still. Like, I thought they were stars at first, and then they just shot out of nowhere, like moved incredibly fast, stayed put for a second, and then just disappeared. And it was very similar to what you're describing. So that's crazy that you described that.
Yeah,
as
and
well.
I don't even know if there was a connection to my experiences with that. I just thought it was kind of interesting. It happened like the day before, you know.
No, that's crazy how similar it was to my only extraterrestrial experience I've seen in the sky. But I guess I've had a couple. But some of those were hallucinogen induced, possibly. But
right on.
Not to discredit it. I think it kind of opens us up to perceive many things we can't see. But I would also add, I also grew up Catholic, man, so I definitely relate to you on that level. And there's so much, it's like we have this wall up and we have a lot of Catholic guilt and shame. And it's like, I like to say we're recovering Catholics, because once you leave, it's like you have so much to like brush off of you and like wash off of you.
Yeah, it's like it's traumatic, a childhood or traumatic event.
PTSD, yeah. And so I totally relate to you there. I just wanted to say, man, so like into this meditation, how far along into the meditation were you, like time wise? And then was it early morning? Was it at night?
Well, I had a few days off. I think I was like around, it was early evening, the first experience, and it went into a little later in the evening. And as far as how long into the meditation, it wasn't that long. It was like, honestly, maybe about 10 minutes in.
Wow. That's incredible, dude.
Yeah. And then
usually it takes you longer to get to that state of mind to where you can fully let go, you know?
Right. And that's another thing they told me is, you know, this happened because you were seeking it and I was ready. And I was seeking an experience that could kind of justify what I'm doing with this podcast, what I'm seeking. Like, I wanted to experience the metaphysical. I wanted to touch the other side and see if there's something there, you know, whether it's extraterrestrials or you know, spirits or angels. You know, I wasn't seeking anything negative. I was seeking, I even had positive intent before the meditation, you know. And I think that they answered, you know.
And then I would say they did. That was a beautiful story, man, and I can't imagine experiencing it firsthand. That would definitely set your life on a different trajectory, and, you know, build some trust with where these voices are coming from, you know, and, you know, giving validity to them, and knowing that they're showing you unconditional love and kind of giving you signs, pointing you in the right direction on your path. It totally reminded me of, I don't know if you've ever seen Artificial Intelligence with the kid from Sixth Sense.
Been a while.
Dude, it totally reminded me of that scene where, like, he's surrounded by the aliens or whatever they were, extraterrestrials, and they were like clear looking, like you could almost see through them, but they looked like grays, like very tall and lengthy, but they were just surrounding him and he was just feeling it all in. And it just like created that picture in my mind as you were describing that, man. It's crazy.
Yeah, man. And the understanding that's kind of grown out of what's happened. Like at first, I was dead set. I was talking to aliens, I was like, "There's got to be extraterrestrials." I know it,
Right.
but that has kind of changed over the years.
Yeah.
The more people I've spoken with, and not only that, the more I've grown spiritually and seeking in myself and learning and reading and researching and just doing my own research, because all these experiences, I believe, are so personal for each person.
Yeah.
Whatever they think it is, I believe that's what it could be for them. It
Yeah.
could be that.
Perception
But
is
for
everything.
me, right, I believe so. For
Yeah.
me, I think that I got in contact with my spirit guides, my either, whether it's ancestors, whether it's
Yeah.
angels, whether it's, passed on loved one, whoever, whatever this energy or these energies were. I think it's somehow attached to us, like always, and they're
Yeah.
always available to us. And that's the understanding I've grown to learn with the entities that I've contacted, is they're all been connected with me somehow since I've been here.
Yeah, I am yet to experience that. I would say, well, I mean, through my ayahuasca experiences, I saw a lot, and I was the devil for a while. I was God. I felt what it was like to like control everyone and like have that power, and it felt like dirty and shameful. I was like, I don't want this. Like, this is way too much power for one man to have. And it put a lot in perspective for me. And I had another solo mushroom journey. I did 5 grams in silent darkness. McKenna was always talking about that. So I always wanted to try. Yeah. And because the whole intention going in was like, I really put a lot into the experience, sage the space, said my prayers before. I think I fasted that day. Pretty much that whole week, I was kind of preparing for it. And I really, made it like a ritual. And I just remember it was like a seamless transition. I did the lemon tech method, so I didn't have the stomach rot, because that was one thing that always always irked me about mushrooms, or like it built this resistance up, which I think the resistance in itself like causes the stomach ache, or like the fear of letting go and the fear of the unknown. Yeah. And so this time was different, and I completely surrendered and was just able to breathe right into the experience, as it's kicking in. Like, there was no like, all right, we're about to go on this roller coaster, like I'm not getting on no more. Like, I was fully ready to rock and roll. Like, and there was a lot of it was almost like I was walking around in my Akashic record, like this library, and there was like this long ladder, went floors and floors up, like one of those old libraries with the sliding ladder, and it just had this vintage feel to it. And it was like I could go through any past experiences, past lives, just like anything I wanted access to. I just like had instant access, could take me there. And just remember having a lot of conversations with my higher self, and thinking about philosophy and comparing duality and unity consciousness, and like weighing the pros and cons of each, trying not to ask too many questions to the point I'm down a rabbit hole I can't return from, and just kind of surrendering when I was like, okay, I'll just leave it at I don't know this. That's where it stops. Like, I'm never gonna know it, so just surrender to that, and it's okay. But so much to learn from plant medicine, man. It's been a huge.
I am a total believer that plant medicine, especially psychedelics and mushrooms and ayahuasca, could replace psychotherapy and
Yeah.
psychotherapists and psychiatrists and psychologists and all the BS, all the medicine and
The middleman.
pharmaceuticals that's out there that's just not helping people. It's just kind of like a band-aid thing. This is like if you have a true great psychedelic experience, like having a therapist in your head that whole time, like
Yeah.
bringing out all the shit that you don't want to look at, but he's like,
Yeah.
nope, you need to
You
see
gotta
this.
face it.
Yes. And it's every time, no matter how terrifying my experience was, no matter how much, I didn't want to face what this experience was showing me, I would always have to face it in order to get out of the experience, feeling good about it. I would end up having to face it, and I would feel great after that experience. I'd be like, yes, this is what I needed. I'm so glad that scared the shit out of me,
Yeah.
And I think, one of the reasons that my guides were pushing me to do the psychedelics is to do that very thing. I needed to do some work on myself, and what
Yeah.
better way than, I think for me, it was a little higher dose. I wasn't microdosing, that's for sure. It was 2 to 3, maybe 4 grams at a time.
Yeah.
And I would have these great journeys where I would explore my deepest subconscious fears and all the things I needed to work out. And it was months of doing this.
Yeah.
And it was the best thing I could have done. And
Yeah.
I would still do mushrooms now, but unfortunately I haven't been growing them for a while, but looking forward to get back into it.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
I mean, it's good to hear in your neck of the woods, you're decriminalizing and talks of legalization in Colorado, I'm hearing.
Right. That would be great.
So it's good to see that positive momentum. And I do think we're living through, like this psychedelic renaissance, and, they're becoming more and more normalized. And I think cannabis was kind of the gateway for that, to, public acceptance of, oh, these things actually do good things. And they're not, these evil devil's lettuce and shit like that we've made them out to be. Like, I think the biggest thing is just education and people knowing what they're getting themselves into, and, not just going to some random retreat because it was cheap. Do your research, talk to the right people, get advice from people who have been there, who have done that. Trust your instincts as well, and use them responsibly. Don't take these things lightly, because they can get messy if you're not ready to face your shit. And if you have a lot of skeletons in the closet, they're all coming out. Like, there's nowhere to run. Yeah. And I've had many awakening experiences, as far as to, like, you thought you had it all figured out, like you thought you were getting a big head, like it takes you way down. It's like, okay, there's your ego, and it's time to keep that thing in check.
Oh yeah, for sure. Every time I would, think, man, I got all my shit together. I'm gonna take this dose, and I'm just gonna ride through with the smile on my face.
Out.
Halfway through, I'm like, oh my god,
hanging on for dear life.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I guess what sparked it for you, man? Like, what was the initial piece of information or thing you watched, thing you read, life experience that kind of started to get you to research these topics deeper?
Oh man, I was looking at actually something on YouTube, and they were talking about CERN and other dimensions. And then I saw the video with Geordie Rose talking about summoning old ones, and how, they're using quantum computing to get in touch with the old gods. I don't remember exactly, but it was something along lines. He's giving a talk to these future students, I think of D-Wave or something like that. And he's telling them basically that they have ways of contacting interdimensional entities, and they consider them old gods or old ones. And these entities don't give a shit about humans, and they would gladly crush us like ants. So, he's saying all this to these students, and I'm wondering, well, why would you want to get in touch with these things? And, the way he's explaining it is like, these entities are going to help us break through these amazing technological breakthroughs advances with quantum computing, and it's like,
Right.
holy shit, this. So I had to look into that a little further. I think that's one of the major things that made me think there's more to our reality than most people want to believe.
Oh yeah.
So, yeah, and
Dude, that
I had
reminded me of like Stargate, like the movie, the whole CERN thing and
oh yeah.
yeah, the portal they're creating. Yeah.
And I had the another kind of second awakening after my experience. Like I've always wanted to see something, just insane like that, like an paranormal experience. What I had was so personal, and through meditation, I was at the UFO mega conference, and I don't know if you've ever heard of the Meadow, but it's a place similar to Skinwalker Ranch where they have all kinds of paranormal activity.
Oh wow.
And a gentleman by the name of Trey Hudson is an investigator there, and he's former intelligence, very legit guy. He's got his stuff together as far as equipment and research and everything that they're doing out there. And crazy stuff has happened there.
Damn.
But he was giving a presentation at the UFO mega conference last year, and this presentation blew my mind because he had video of his team walking out to a field because a giant black cube manifested into the field. And this thing was like a maybe 20 feet long, maybe longer, 20 feet, like cube, 20 feet high.
Holy shit.
And he sent his team out there to go and see what the fuck that is.
Yeah.
So they're going out there, and when they get to the area this cube is, they can't see anything.
Oh shit.
But they disappear. You can see he's showing infrared video of his team going up to this big black void, and they disappear into it. And he's like, "Hello, are y'all there?" And they're like, "Yeah, we're here, but something's weird. They're running into thorns and picker bushes that aren't there, like in reality. If the temperature drops like almost 10 to 15 degrees, and everything is pitch black. They can't see anything. They have to backtrack because the further forward they try to go, they keep getting picked by all these weird non-existent picker bushes and shit." So they back it. I'm watching this, like he's showing this to everybody at the conference, the MegaCon. These people are in this fucking portal, and I'm like, oh my God. And it was legit. And all of a sudden they pop out on the other side of this cube thing, and they're fine. They just pop out of it. And it's like, holy shit, this is weird, man. I don't know how to explain it. I don't know if they went to another dimension or reality.
That's insane.
Or if there's some kind of electromagnetic interference in that area that causes a kind of a bending of space-time. Who knows? But that was the most amazing thing I've ever seen. And I'm glad I saw it because it gave me a second sense of, there's really something out here we got to take a look at.
Yeah. Yeah, man. I think aliens are tough, man, because it's like it's hard to rule them out completely. Like you're never going to be able to rule them out completely. That's like saying, oh, there's no species we haven't discovered in the ocean. It's like, okay, yeah, good luck trying to prove that. But like, yeah, because you hear all this talk about Project Bluebeam and like this fake alien invasion, but that doesn't mean that there isn't still real ones. Or like, because it's interesting to me because I see because I definitely think there is interdimensional, but that's the thing. Are they shifting from one dimension into this 3D and then going back out? Like how do you, like, what do you think about stuff like this? Like, do you see them like they're interdimensional and 3D physical?
Man,
like you can touch them?
My thoughts on like aliens changes all the time.
Yeah,
because it's such a hard topic. But the way the understanding I've kind of reached now is that there is a whole spectrum of life that's just beyond our vision that we can't see. That's always existent right here. It's like on this planet. I don't think they're coming from different galaxies, possibly different dimensions. But I think these dimensions are all around us, and we can't perceive them. But every once in a while, we'll get glimpses of them, like even through psychedelics. I think that is kind of like a way to thin the veil or change our perception to where we can see this spectrum. Or get a little glimpse of it and maybe communicate with it a little. But I think a lot of these entities just exist there, and that could be what's happening with portals and things of that nature, that for some reason, maybe electromagnetic disturbances causing this to open up or manifest into our reality. And I think a lot of these intelligences that are from these different realities or dimensions, they either have a technology or they know how to go back and forth. They know how to present themselves. I think they know how to maybe even change our perception because they're so good at what they can do with their technology, whether it's spiritual, whether it's some kind of something that we don't understand, even a physical technology, whether they exist physically in this kind of dimension. I don't know, probably, it could be.
Yeah, it's almost like they can cloak themselves when need be and go back to where they came from before. They're like, all right, we only have so much time, but at the same time it's like time probably doesn't exist to them. They're like, what's time? Like, that's just a human concept. But yeah, it's fascinating, man, to dive down those rabbit holes. Yeah, I guess like where did you start to drift off when you initially left religion, like growing up in the church? Like how did you go forward from that? Like, because I feel like every time you like grow up in a religion and you leave it, sometimes you rebel to the point where you're full-blown atheist and you're like, I'm going to tell everyone I'm an atheist.
I was kind of an atheist. I mean, I wasn't an atheist, but because I believed in ghosts, I believed in spirits, I believed in things of that nature. I don't think I was an atheist. I was more agnostic than anything.
Yeah.
But after I left, the church, I wouldn't say left. I never was really a part of the church. I'd go to the church and I'd sit there like, what the hell's going on here? But when I was a teenager, like, 19, I left my house. I went to trade school in Florida, and I just did my own thing. And I didn't go to church. Wasn't part of any religion, just kind of, agnostic. Like I said, I didn't identify as Catholic still. Just kind of went along in my sleeping life, doing my job, and didn't really think much of spirituality or religion much at all. That was kind of devoid of my life, any type of spiritual experience at that point. It wasn't until a couple of years ago I started looking at that.
Wow, that is crazy, man. It's almost like your podcast was leading you spiritually before you got on the spiritual path.
Right on. Yeah,
now they're intermixed and like benefiting each other. That's beautiful, man. Your story is incredible, man. So you've been doing this since 2017. You started
I started the Facebook page in like late 2000 or early 2016. And then Facebook blog went on for almost a year. Then I started YouTube in 2017. And then in late 2017, I don't know if you know Charlie Robinson.
Yeah.
He's like, you need to start a podcast, put it on the podcast. I'm like, all right. So he got me started on there. So thank you, Charlie, for that recommendation.
Oh, Charlie. Yeah. Great guy.
And yeah, man, it just took off from there. Once it got on, I didn't expect it to, and never expected to be doing this for a living. And I feel greatly blessed for being able to, and for that the audience appreciates the content that I'm putting out there. So it's quite amazing, quite surreal.
Yeah, man. Totally is an honor to do what we do, and just. I love having these deep conversations, man, and just being able to explore new ideas and, exchange ideas, learn from each other, build common ground, and, not focus on what we don't have in common, but focus on what we do. So, we can learn to love one another, as we should, and, not get caught up on these details about each other that divide us and get us picking teams and thinking as groups. I mean, it's just ridiculous. Like, we're better than this, and there's so much more to life than fighting all the time and running against the wind.
Right. Yeah. Well, I mean, there's so much we could come together on, especially right now, that we could come together so easily if we just realize each other's not the enemy. There's a bigger enemy that we could be looking at together, and maybe do something about it if we stop fighting each other over our stupid differences, and just kind of meet each other on common ground with everything that's happening. Just take a rational look. That's the problem. People can't take a rational look at things these days because they're so pumped up with fear and everything else that's being all these outside influences. It's preventing them from seeing the bigger picture and coming together. Like, I'm all about bringing these ideas from both sides together. That's what my show is about. I have everybody on. I have both sides. I have whether you want to consider them bad or good or wrong or right. I want to get as many opinions out there and as much information about what's happening and what could have happened, so you can decide for yourself. You can make this decision, because if you have it all in front of you, it's easier to make that decision. It's easier to see. But people right now, they don't want to see one side. They only want to see the side they're comfortable with. Everybody's comfortable. They don't want to, I'm comfortable. I got the Kardashians coming on and a beer in my lap. Oh no, I don't want to see that. But
my family won't accept me.
Right. It's the fear thing. They don't they're afraid of losing, especially right now. You're afraid of losing a job, afraid of getting on a plane, afraid of going to a restaurant, afraid of
crazy times.
Not being able to do a lot of stuff. So I get it. I get the fear, but the reality is it's not going anywhere. People think this shit's gonna go away. True, they think it's just gonna go away. If we get 100 boosts, it's just gonna go away. No, you don't understand. You're gonna be getting 500, and it's gonna be worse than it's ever was before because you didn't stand up and do anything about it. So
just keep kicking the can down the road.
right. People just need to, like you said, man, just come together over something.
Yeah, man. I've been saying a lot in discussions I've been having lately, just with friends and family. Like, imagine all the protests we've had, like just in the last 20, 30 years, just in the last year alone. I mean, the Black Lives Matter protests, the January 6th riots, protests, the Wall Street protests back in the day, all these different protests, the no mask protests, the no jab protests. Like, can't we all just find some common ground or a common goal we can get behind, like unite all those protests?
Elite baby eating, blood drinking bastard protest.
Yeah. Can we build a new system and remove this old system and find one we can all agree on, that we all have some sort of say in?
Down with the freaking matrix prison system. That's a good one to get behind.
Slightly outdated. I think it's time for a system upgrade.
Oh God, yes, for sure.
But yeah, man, I just think that's what I'm all about, man. And that's, kind of the message behind my show. It's called Ascension of the Chessman, but I just see it as, we're like on this chessboard of getting hung up on each other's differences and all this division, and it's like dog eat dog, and we're always competing against others rather than ourselves. And I think once we start to go inward and realize that we're all just reflections of each other, like what we don't like in someone else, there's an aspect of that in ourselves we still need to work on. And when it gets triggered within us, we overreact rather than, respond with patience and love unconditionally, and just rising above that game and seeing each other as that, divine reflections of ourselves, and just being able to live, as all these the saviors of all these religions. We're just simply trying to say, love your neighbor as yourself. And, it's something we still struggle with.
Yes. All the, ascended masters that we look to had all the same basic message, and it's been perverted just for power and whatever other causes that people have had the ability to change our history with. And I think if we go back to just, the basic principles of what they were trying to put forward, just, love each other, love your neighbor. And this message that I was talking about of having Christ consciousness. And that's not meaning the person, Jesus Christ. I don't think it has anything to do with a person at all. It's a state of mind. It's a state of being. It's a state of just loving your fellow humans and accepting your fellow humans, and just having a positive state of mind instead of bringing negativity into reality, into existence, because I think that if you are negative on the inside, it manifests in
Mhm.
reality in many different ways. It just
Yeah.
depends on what form of negativity you're bringing in there.
Yeah, man. Completely agree. I've been doing a lot of thinking on, like these elites, these narcissists, that program of human consciousness that's out there in the world. Like, I feel like, where was I going with this? Like, they, so they had this like initiation ritual, right? Like they had the rite of passage, whatever it may have been, whether it was through the business world or there was some sort of exchange between like something higher than themselves and like getting to the success. And they realize they have this power. Like I said, I felt what that was like through an ayahuasca experience, like feeling that power of this, like you are like a co-creator of your existence and you can take advantage of others and use that power for evil purposes. Like you can use that to be destructive rather than build and create new life, and use it for good, rather than the opposite. And I feel like those in power have chosen to do the opposite at that point in their journey. Was they just kind of went the other way when they could have went the right way. And I think that's what's going on.
Oh yeah, for sure. I wonder at what level are a lot of these individuals compromised,
Mm,
because you see a lot of people in high levels that are trying to do good things,
right.
but you also see a lot of people that have uh, made decisions that they very visibly regret these days. If you look at even celebrities, a lot of
Right.
the older celebrities, it looks like they regret how they attained the status that they've gotten.
Right.
Some of them talk about even how they shouldn't have sold their souls and all this
Right.
stuff. So I think that there's a level where you can be compromised,
Yeah.
and I think that in order to attain a certain status, you might have to be on some level.
Yeah.
And can you come back from that? I don't know.
Right.
And I wonder, you look at these people who are in these very high positions of power, and they're trying to maybe speak up against what's happening now, and it makes you wonder: are they controlled opposition? It
Right.
gets you that that conspiratorial mind going. But
Right.
I don't know. I think there are some people that are genuinely trying to do something to change things in these higher positions, because there's not many.
Yeah.
You only see a couple, and a lot of them that do, they're either silenced, they're canceled,
Oh yeah.
or you won't see them on this planet anymore. They're suicided somehow.
Oh yeah, man. Yeah, and I mean, when people say like Rogan's compromised, I mean, yeah, I mean, I get that whole argument until the recent last few months.
Yeah, I've been really proud of what Rogan has been putting
Yeah, I
forward
think he's
lately.
really stepped up to the plate lately, and really put his head on the chopping block, because he has no obligation to do that. I mean, he's just the way he's changed the game as far as podcasting goes, and the viewers and listeners he has compared to the mainstream media right now, I think is really changing how people receive information, and it's kind of affecting those in power, their grip on controlling information.
Oh yeah, I agree. I think that they are trying everything they can to get him canceled. It's not gonna work,
Yeah.
because he's just gonna do his own thing, man. He's gonna pull
Right.
everybody to. He's gonna start his own shit and pull everybody to that.
Oh
So
yeah.
that's not gonna work. But what's happening now is, to give you a little chess analogy, and I have to thank Gloria, my friend Gloria Canning, for this. She told me one day, Chris, the good side's already won. The right side's already won. It's like a
Mm.
big game of chess,
Yeah.
and we've won. We're already 7 moves ahead of these bastards, and they are making all these moves to attempt to get the audience to think that they still have a chance to win,
Right.
and they don't. Like
I love that.
they
Very
are
true.
they are in a corner, and they are just we're moving closer, inching closer, and they're throwing everything they can at us to keep us back, like, but they're down to Q-tips, they're
Right.
down to like water droplets,
Throwing all their cards on the table.
and screaming like little girls, like, no. Yeah. So it's almost over, I believe. I get the sense that, they don't have,
Yeah.
what did they have? Omicron for us. So thank you. So
Right.
I don't think they have much else to give us before it all falls apart. This whole
Yeah.
system is falling, is crumbling. And however it has to crumble, it's going to have to do it. That's what has to happen for us
Yep.
to reach the next stage of evolution, I believe, is this false system that we're under has to crumble so we can flourish as what we're supposed to be on this incarnation. Yeah,
Right,
just what
man.
I think.
Yeah, I mean, every ruling empire has its number. It's like they all rise and fall to a certain point, and I'm curious to see how this all plays out. I think it could be really chaotic, or it could be, not so chaotic. It just depends, how it plays out. But I mean, just the stuff I've seen in the last year or two, I mean, none of it really surprised me. I mean, being aware of some of these things for, 8-9 years now, I was kind of like, I started to see it almost immediately within the first couple of weeks of when this all began, and really started to question the validity of any of this. And yeah, it totally changed, some relationships, and it's definitely created a divide in people. And I try my best to, find those commonalities with people I disagree with in those conversations, but also not disrespect myself and my own beliefs. And that's tough, but I do have a lot of hope for the future. And I do think you're right, man. I think we get so focused on the darkness, and, even in the biblical prophecy stuff, like I remember getting super into that around 2012, thought the world was going to end. And I was so wrapped up in the fear side of it, and like the demons and the darkness. And it's like, we forget about the good guys. We forget about the people on our side. We forget about our spirit guides. Like, we forget the good guys win. It's like we get the plot twisted.
Yeah, for sure. I went through a stage of kind of darkness myself when I first started doing this on a podcast and YouTube. I was doing these daily little reports about disasters around the world, natural disasters that were occurring, and it's a lot of negative stuff. And after a while, it started to get to me, and I was like, man, I gotta balance this stuff out, and I don't think this is the most important stuff I could be covering right now. So I kind of shifted everything, and it was like after I started doing that for a little while, I had my experience. So it's kind of interesting how we get
Set the
pushed in
stage.
certain directions.
Yeah, man. Spirituality has helped me so much. After becoming aware of some of these elites, and just all the craziness in the world, all the rabbit holes you can go down once you get into 9/11, the Federal Reserve, and it's just, operation after operation you're going down. And it takes a toll on you. And it wasn't until I started meditating either, and I had a transcendent LSD experience. I didn't plan on having, but I was heavily in church at the time, and had this revelation we're all one, and had that direct connection with God. And it was something that I'd never felt before. I'd always searched externally to find that in church, and to finally feel that, I realized I didn't need church anymore. And I was like chasing something that I already had all along. And it really put the pieces of the puzzle together for me, as far as what I was missing and what I needed to keep. and hold true to my heart, and just remembering to, keep those spiritual practices up, because if you're only looking into the darkness, like, you're gonna degrade and you're gonna get depressed. Like, you do got to balance it out and like take some time to yourself, go for a walk out in nature, whatever it may be.
Oh yes, for sure. Yeah, you have to take that time, and you can't, like you said, this doing looking into some of the stuff that we look into, and some of the topics that we cover. It can definitely get dark, but I
Yeah.
don't think that like I said, I was focused on dark stuff for a while, but I wanted to balance it out. But
Mm.
on the other side, I don't think you can just be love and light all
Yep.
the time.
Exactly.
You have to
Yeah.
you have to at
It's a
least
slippery slope.
bring the darkness to light and let people know
Yes.
it's there
So important.
before you can make any changes to it. But I always like ending shows on a positive note. I always
Yes.
like, what's the solution to this? If I'm talking about something really dense and dark, and it gets heavy during the conversation, I have to end it with, what are we doing to flip this around? What's a positive
Yes.
thing?
Same.
So we got to look at all aspects of this stuff. It's not just black or white. And too many people, like, I'm going to bring it back to what I was saying earlier, too many people looking at one side because it's
Mm.
comfortable.
Yeah.
But you know what? You got to get uncomfortable sometimes to really get things flowing.
So addicted to comfort, man.
Yeah.
I've referenced this movie before, but it's one of my all-time favorites. It's called My Dinner with Andre, I believe,
Mm.
and it came out in the early '80s. But the whole
Man, it's been
movie's,
so long. I've seen that a
you
long
have,
time
okay.
ago. Long time ago.
But
Yeah.
yeah, that was the whole concept of like this addiction to comfort, and how we're creating this own prison cell. And oh yeah, the bars are fluffy, but we're still creating a prison cell of comfort. And if we get too comfortable in that, we're never going to leave it, and that's not a good place to be if you actually want to grow and evolve and develop spiritually, on all facets. Mastering your mind, body, spirit, and just focusing on all areas of just bettering yourself so you can live a thriving life, so you're not just surviving and scraping by and constantly struggling. um
Yeah.
yeah.
One thing I've learned is the universe wants you to be happy. If you
Yes.
take that first step, it's going to take a second step for you. If
Mm.
you start on your path and you start doing the right thing, what makes you feel good, makes you happy, and it's good for you and it's good for everyone around you, and it's not going to hurt anybody. And it's the path, man. Once you find it and you start on it, it's going to take off, man, and you're going to be
Yes.
propelled down that path. And if you're doing it the right way, there's nothing that'll stop you, because you found it. You found that, like, fucking that rocket ship to where you need to go,
Yeah.
and you're on it. So and I think that people are afraid to take that first step to get on that thing.
Mm.
That's what's holding
Yes.
people back, is the fear of doing what they really want to do, because of whatever, because I have to get a shot to do this, or because I can't do this, or because I'm not good enough. No, if the universe wants you to do what you want to do. That's the whole thing that people didn't figure out. Like, whatever this life force is that controls everything and binds everything together, wants you to be happy, because
Yes.
your experience in this world is all there is. Like, no one
Mm.
else is going to experience this but you. So why
Yes.
not make it good, right?
Fuck yeah, dude. I love it. I'm all about it, man. Chris, I just want to thank you so much for coming on, brother. This has
Oh,
been
hell yeah.
phenomenal conversation. Pleasure getting to know you, brother. It's so crazy. Every time I meet someone like yourself for the first time, I'm always like, what are we going to talk about? What are we going to have in common? And I always have so much more in common than I would ever guess. And
Oh,
it's
hell
just
yeah.
crazy, man. I like you said, man, I love ending on a positive note as well. And I always just ask, what daily spiritual practices do you kind of use to stay grounded throughout the chaos?
I love hiking, man. This is one of the
Mm.
big reasons I moved to Colorado near the Rockies,
Fuck
is
yeah.
so I can go out to the foothills, or I can go out to the Rockies, go out to the middle of nowhere and meditate and just look at the beautiful nature and just get in
Mm.
touch with everything. And that's one of my favorite things to do, is just go out and, drive to the middle of nowhere, drive up a mountain, go to the top of that sucker and, plop down and meditate for a while.
That's amazing, brother. Yeah, Colorado's always been my destination move. I'm a Nebraska man, so it's a matter of time before I'm moving out there. It's very flat here.
Yeah.
A lot of cornfields. But yeah, man, I just wanted to give you an opportunity to plug your show and anything else big you got coming up and your other shows, whatever you want to plug.
Oh, yeah, man, for sure. Well, thank you so much again for having me on. This is a great conversation. And we are going to schedule you for Forbidden Knowledge News. We're going to get you on my show soon. So looking forward to that. And yeah, man, I've got some cool stuff coming up. March 11th, 12th, and 13th, we've got Forbidden Knowledge News Con 3, third annual. It's going to be, we're going to have 8 or maybe 9 presenters. It's going to be online with a Rockfin premium account. So we're on Rockfin. That's where you get all our premium stuff. So if you get that, you're going to get not only Forbidden Knowledge News Con, you get all 3 Forbidden Knowledge News Cons that we've done. They're all on Rockfin. You get all our premium content and all the content from all the awesome creators out there on Rockfin. And our website, if you want to go check that out, we've got all the information about all our stuff. Our website is forbiddenknowledge.news. And best thing about that is we feature awesome podcasts on there as well. We got about 8 or 9 podcasts that we're featuring on there. So go to forbiddenknowledge.news, check all those out. We're also, of course, available on all podcast platforms, limited on YouTube because they suck and they're censoring everything. So we're kind of limited on there, and we're on Odyssey. And I think that's it, my man. So thank you so much.
Beautiful, brother. Well, thank you so much, Chris. It's been an amazing talk. I know the listeners are going to love it. Thank you all for listening out there. I love you all, and hope you have a beautiful week. Go out for a walk in nature if you can. Just enjoy life while you got the time. Peace and love.